Welcome back, Wasteland survivors. Today, we are diving deep into the darkest chapter of the old world. The corporations that did not just enable the apocalypse, they engineered it. Before Vault-Tec sealed people in torture chambers disguised as shelters, before supermutants roamed Appalachia, before workers were gassed by their own employers, these companies wore respectable faces. They ran advertisements during family programs. They promised safety, progress, and the American dream. But behind every quarterly report and every cheerful mascot was a machinery of calculated evil that makes the wasteland's horrors look almost merciful by comparison. West-Tek turned small towns into testing grounds for monsters. Poseidon Energy massacred striking workers with experimental gas. RobCo automated millions into poverty, then armed the corporations that gunned them down. Nuke-Cola killed 62 people perfecting a radioactive soft drink while developing chemical weapons. And Vault-Tec, the company that promised to save humanity, conducted the largest human experimentation program in history. These were not accidents. These were choices made by people in boardrooms, executed by scientists and engineers who cashed their paychecks and looked away. And if you genuinely enjoy this kind of dark storytelling, consider subscribing and liking the channel, but only if it truly resonates with you. I need to tell you something I found in the ruins, something that kept me awake for 3 nights straight, staring at terminal screens until my eyes burned. You think you know what evil looks like in the wasteland? Raiders, Deathclaws, the Enclave. But those are just symptoms. The real monsters wore suits and ties. They had corner offices and quarterly earnings reports. They smiled in advertisements while conducting experiments that would make you vomit. I'm going to walk you through the companies that built this hell we call home. Not because I enjoy it, but because someone needs to remember what they did. Someone needs to bear witness. Let me start with a name you probably know. West-Tek. Founded in 2002, West-Tek became the biggest military contractor in America. They made weapons, they did medical research, and their greed killed more people than any bomb ever could. I have seen their facilities, I have read their files, and I can tell you with absolute certainty that every death they caused was completely preventable. Their first crime involved the T-45 power armor. You have probably seen those rusted suits scattered across the wasteland. West-Tek engineers knew the armor had serious flaws. There was a vulnerable weld point beneath the chest plate. Enemy bullets could pierce straight through. They knew this. The data was right there in their quality control reports, but they shipped those suits to American troops in Alaska anyway. Soldiers died, men and women who trusted their equipment, who believed their government would not send them into battle with defective armor. West-Tek faced no punishment. They kept their contracts. They kept making money, but that was nothing compared to what came next. In 2073, West-Tek was contracted to develop a cure for the new plague. They created something called the Pan-Immunity Virion Project. Sounds noble, right? A cure for disease. Protection against Chinese bioweapons. Except the military saw something else in those early test results. The virus made test subjects bigger, stronger, more aggressive. And suddenly, this cure became a weapon. West-Tek complied. Their own scientists warned them that human testing was too dangerous, too unpredictable. But money talks louder than ethics. In 2075, they picked Huntersville, West Virginia as their main testing site. They bought the rights to experiment on local people. Just bought them, like you would buy livestock. Those experiments created the creatures that still hunt us today. Snallygasters, Grafton monsters, super mutants. In February 2076, they contaminated Huntersville's water supply with their virus to observe long-term, low-level exposure effects. The townspeople thought they had the flu at first. By August, they were being isolated in their homes. Armed guards in hazmat suits kept them contained. Anyone who tried to leave was hunted down and eliminated. Can you imagine that? Waking up one morning feeling sick, then watching as your neighbors start changing. Your skin begins to harden. Your body grows. Your mind starts to slip, and armed guards stand outside your door making sure you cannot escape. What do you think really happened to those people? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I would like to know if I am the only one who feels this way. By 2077, West-Tek was running experiments around the clock. The government had taken complete control of the company by then, giving them official backing for their horrors. One test subject's organic tissues were replaced entirely with retinal tissue. Another was killed when their own canines pierced through their skull. One committed suicide immediately after being transferred to a holding cell. Can you blame them? West-Tek research center workers, eventually abandoned the facility on October 30th, 2077, a week after the bombs fell. They dumped neutralizing agent into the FEV vats and ran. But the damage was done. Their creations still roam Appalachia, still kill survivors, still multiply. Now let me tell you about a company that makes West-Tek look almost merciful by comparison: Vault-Tec. You have seen their logo everywhere, that cheerful mascot, those bright blue and yellow colors. Revolutionizing safety for an uncertain future, they said. In 2054, they won the massive government contract to build underground shelters, Project Safe House. They marketed it as humanity's salvation: build vaults across America, preserve civilization, give people hope. It was all a lie. Out of the 122 vaults Vault-Tec constructed, only 17 were designed to actually save people. 17. The rest were torture chambers disguised as salvation. Each vault was a different experiment, each one designed to push human beings past their breaking point to collect data. Vault 12 had a door deliberately designed never to seal properly. Everyone inside was guaranteed to die from radiation poisoning. That was the experiment. How long would it take? What mutations would occur? Vault-Tec executives watched and took notes. Vault 106 had psychoactive drugs pumped into the air system. The goal was to drive everyone insane and observe the results. Vault 43 locked 30 humans inside with a panther, just to see what would happen. Vault 77 isolated one man with nothing but a crate of puppets for company. For years, Vault 87 exposed residents to FEV, turned them into super mutants. Vault 111 froze people in cryogenic stasis and watched them die when systems failed. Vault 75 raised children and then killed any teenager deemed unfit upon reaching age 18. Some experiments were subtler. Vault 101 tested the psychological effects of an all-powerful overseer who could never be questioned. Vault 11 made residents vote for human sacrifices. If they had ever refused to kill someone, a message would have played congratulating them and unlocking the door, but they never knew. They kept killing each other year after year. Vault 4 was governed entirely by scientists with no oversight. They conducted unrestricted human experiments, creating mutated hybrids. Test subjects eventually rebelled and fed their torturers to the very monsters they had created. Vault-Tec executives dismissed ethical concerns as counterproductive and close-minded. They believed the data was worth more than human lives. Their ultimate goal was to use experimental data to design a perfect society, to establish total control over humanity's future. They saw the nuclear war as an opportunity to wipe the slate clean and redefine mankind in their vision. A post-war world where Vault-Tec would have complete monopoly on human survival. Some executives, like Barb Howard, seriously considered starting the Great War themselves. At a corporate meeting with leaders from RobCo, West-Tek, Poseidon Energy and others, she floated the idea of deliberately instigating nuclear war. They would control the only survivors, eliminate all competition, create a world designed to their specifications. If you have ever wondered what choice you would make in a situation like this, tell me in the comments. I will be reading them. Did they actually do it? Did Vault-Tec start the war? We may never know for certain, but they were ready. They were waiting. And when the bombs dropped, their experiments began exactly as planned. But at least Vault-Tec pretended to offer safety. At least they gave people that false hope. Some companies did not even bother with the pretense hallucinogen. Incorporated was a Boston-based biochemical company that specialized in developing so-called non-lethal crowd control technology for police and military riot pacification. Every single product they created was a deadly weapon. Their flagship product was hallucinogen gas, marketed as reliable crowd control since 2055. Testing in October 2077 revealed it caused traumatic adrenal gland rupture, hallucinations, erratic behavior, extreme aggression, and heart failure. No test subjects survived exposure, not one. But hallucinogen marketed it anyway. The suppressor was advertised as a safe way to paralyze armored targets. It caused permanent paralysis in test subjects, bystanders, nearby animals, and even the users themselves. The eradicator blasted subjects with massive radiation, instantly melting faces and collapsing bodies. The dispersant triggered panic so severe that one test subject saw his own child in the waiting room and went completely insane. He was institutionalized. Hallucinogen's business model was built entirely on deception. They would post help-wanted signs to lure people looking for jobs. Once inside, job seekers were given drugged refreshments while filling out paperwork. Receptionists prepared accident reports because they knew most test subjects would not survive. When chemical spills happened, company executives got priority evacuation. Test subjects were sealed in chambers to die from exposure. The CEO ordered accountants to falsify financial records and hide massive losses from investors. Despite losing over $1.8 billion by 2077, Hallucigen kept operating until the bombs dropped. Their products were sold to other companies for brutal purposes. Poseidon Energy bought Hallucigen gas to end a workers' strike at one of their power plants. In Appalachia, Poseidon called in the National Guard to gas-striking workers. The plan was to make protesters turn on each other, create a violent riot that could be used to destroy organized labor. It went wrong. The gas turned peaceful protesters into a rampaging horde that overran National Guard lines. Soldiers turned on each other. The plant was sealed, but protesters made it through old expansion tunnels that never had security doors installed. They flooded the facility. Everyone inside died. Think about that for a moment. A company developed a weapon so dangerous that even the military could not control it once deployed. And they sold it anyway, marketed it as non-lethal, as safe, as effective. The evidence of their crimes is still scattered across the Commonwealth. You can walk through their headquarters, see the observation rooms where VIPs watch demonstrations, read the terminals describing how rooms should be cleared of test subjects, blood and fluids after each showing. Stand in the chambers where people died screaming while executives took notes. These companies worked together. They collaborated. Vault-Tec contracted Hallucigen to develop mood-altering chemicals for their experiments. RobCo provided Vault-Tec with technology for torture devices. Poseidon Energy gave the Enclave access to their offshore facilities. West-Tek partnered with everyone for weapons development. They all knew. They all profited. And they all convinced themselves they were doing necessary work. I have read their internal memos, their quarterly reports, their emails, the casual way they discussed human lives, how they debated cost-benefit analyses of worker deaths, how they celebrated each other's innovations in suffering. This is what the old world really was. Not the glossy advertisements with smiling families, not the patriotic speeches about American values. These companies, these decisions, these executives who looked at human beings and saw only data points and profit margins. The deeper I dig into these files, the worse it gets. Poseidon Energy was everywhere before the war. Oil rigs, gas stations, power plants, factories. They controlled virtually every aspect of America's power grid. Operating since at least 2037, this conglomerate owned Mexico's largest oil field after the US invasion in 2051. If it produced energy, Poseidon either made it, acquired it, or refined it. Their goal was simple: total market domination, maximum profits. At any cost, they aggressively bought out competitors through hostile takeovers, spent millions lobbying politicians, secured billions in government contracts. Their Byzantine network of subsidiaries made it nearly impossible to track their activities. Poseidon Oil, Poseidon Gasoline, PetroChico in Mexico, dozens of shell companies and cat's paws designed to obscure responsibility. But I told you what happened at that power plant in West Virginia. Let me give you the full picture. Workers at Poseidon Energy Plant WV06 organized a walkout. They wanted job security. The Associated Miners Union supported them. These were not radicals. They were people who saw their jobs being replaced by automation, who watched as robots took over positions that had fed families for generations, who realized that corporations saw them as nothing more than expendable labor to be optimized away. The plant manager, Renee Hargraves, was sympathetic to their cause. But the head of security, Brent Olson, was not. Poseidon supported Olson's plan to humiliate the strikers and break the union. As per company policy, all workers who joined the picket were fired on the spot. This gave Olson the opportunity to replace them with automated workers. To prevent the plant manager from interfering, he declared a state of emergency and locked her in her office. Then Poseidon called in the National Guard with heavy tanks, APCs and Hallucigen riot control gas. The plan was elegant in its cruelty. Gas the strikers, make them turn violent, turn a peaceful protest into a deadly riot, then use that violence to justify destroying organized labor across the entire region. Proof that unions were dangerous, that workers could not be trusted. That automation was the only safe option, except the gas worked too well. The frenzied protesters rushed the National Guard lines. Soldiers could not see through the smoke. Many tore off their gas masks in confusion. The soldiers turned. They attacked each other. The plant was sealed, but everyone had forgotten about the old expansion tunnels, the ones that never had security doors installed, because it would have cost too much. The protesters made it inside, then into the plant itself. There was no way out. Everyone died. Workers, soldiers, security personnel, all because Poseidon wanted to send a message about what happens when you organize against them. And you know what the company did afterwards? Nothing. They issued no statements, paid no reparations, just moved on to the next quarter, the next profit margin, the next opportunity to squeeze more value from desperate people. Poseidon also had deep ties to the Enclave. They allowed that shadow government to use the oil rig as control station Enclave, gave them access to the Poseidonet data system, provided technology and resources for their genocidal plans. The Enclave may have been the architects of post-war America's darkest schemes, but Poseidon Energy provided the infrastructure. Now let me tell you about the company that put millions of Americans out of work while making its founder obscenely wealthy. RobCo Industries was founded on June 25, 2042 by Robert House on his 22nd birthday. Within 5 years, it became one of the most profitable corporations on Earth. House deliberately structured the company like a maze to hide his practices, a Byzantine internal structure that made accountability impossible. RobCo's unified operating system became the standard for nearly all American computers. Their robots were everywhere: Protectrons, Securitrons, Sentrybots, iBots. They sold them to average citizens and produced them for military contracts. The Pip-Boy you might find on a skeleton, RobCo technology. But here is what they do not tell you in the marketing materials. RobCo's mass robot production contributed directly to the automation riots that plagued pre-war America. Working-class citizens lost their livelihoods to machines. Jobs that had supported families for generations disappeared overnight. Miners, factory workers, service industry employees, all replaced by cold steel and programming. In Appalachia, the situation became catastrophic. As early as 2061, the region was rife with homelessness. Workers struggled to feed their families. Then companies started deploying RobCo robots to replace them in jobs deemed too dangerous, which really meant any job where they could cut labor costs. The protests turned violent. Miners organized. They built barricades in Clarksburg, turned Beckley into a fortress, raided corporate facilities along Mount Blair. Some even brought down unfinished mega mansions belonging to executives. RobCo responded by creating Strikebreaker, robots for the Hornwright Industrial Mining Company, custom designed for one purpose: break the strikes using lethal force. These machines rolled into the ash heap and opened fire on protesters, on American citizens exercising their right to organize. Men and women who just wanted to keep their jobs were gunned down by robots built by a company that claimed to be making life easier. Robert House also partnered with Vault-Tec on their human experimentation program. He worked with them on the Watoga project, bulldozing residents' homes to build an automated city. He collaborated on the RoboBrain project, creating combat robots powered by actual human brains taken from executed criminals and military prisoners. After the bombs fell, House preserved himself in a special pod beneath the Lucky 38 in Vegas. He survived. He became Mr. House, ruler of New Vegas, controlling the city with his Securitron army. The man who helped create the automation that destroyed millions of lives lived to see the world end and then rebuilt his empire on the ashes. But at least House created products that worked. Some companies sold nothing but false promises wrapped in corporate marketing. Pulowski Preservation Services saw an opportunity in people's fear. When Project Safe House was announced and Vault-Tec won the main contract, millions of Americans realized they would not get into a vault. They were not rich enough, not connected enough, not lucky enough. They were going to die in nuclear fire, and there was nothing they could do about it. Pulowski marketed their preservation shelters as the solution. Personal protection on a budget, nuclear protection there when you actually need it, affordable line of personal protection products to make sure no one gets left behind. The shelters were death traps. Single-person cylindrical booths on street corners, coin-operated, taking exact change only. They looked like phone booths. The marketing was everywhere. Advertisements during the adventures of Captain Cosmos. Cross-promotions with Slocum's Joe and other businesses. Celebrity endorsements like Dick Shale, hosting shelter squat contests. Regional governments bought these snake-oil death cages with taxpayer money, not because they worked, but to give false hope to citizens who had nowhere else to turn. The shelters had no food, no water, no basic supplies, no Geiger counter to tell you when it was safe to come out. The thin metal walls could easily buckle from falling debris. They had one-way locks that trapped people inside once they entered. And here is the worst part. They provided no protection from radiation, none. The ventilation system only prevented suffocation, leaving occupants to die slowly from radiation poisoning, thirst or starvation. The evidence is scattered across the wasteland. Shelters filled with skeletons of people who died waiting for rescue that never came. Some contain feral ghouls, proof the shelters failed to protect against radiation as promised. These people paid for safety. They believed the advertisements. They trusted that someone would not sell them a product designed to fail in the exact moment they needed it most. But they did. Pulowski took their money, installed thousands of shelters across the eastern United States. And when the bombs fell, those shelters became coffins. Slow, terrible coffins where people had time to realize they had been betrayed, to understand that their final desperate hope was a lie, to die alone in a metal tube while nuclear fire raged outside. I found one shelter near the Boston Public Library. There is a skeleton inside, still clutching a book. Whoever it was, they thought they would have time to read while waiting out the worst of the attack. Can you imagine their last moments, realizing the air was making them sick, that the walls were not protecting them, that they were trapped and dying and no one was coming? Then there is Nuka-Cola Corporation. Everyone knows Nuka-Cola. It is the most popular drink in the wasteland. Warm, flat, mildly radioactive, but before the war, it was America's favorite soft drink. John Caleb Bradburton invented it in 2044 after 2 years of experimentation. Within 1 year, it was sold nationwide. Within several years, it was the most popular beverage on Earth. The company was ruthless in crushing competition. When they encountered rivals, they attacked finances to force patent sales. They acquired Nuka Cherry and Nuka Grape formulas this way. When they could not buy out Sunset Sarsaparilla, they launched competing products and theme park attractions to destroy them. For Vim Pop Incorporated, Nuka-Cola executives hired mercenaries to sabotage production lines, steal trucks and target workers until the company surrendered. But their greatest evil was Nuka-Cola Quantum. In October 2076, Bradburton made a backdoor deal with the military. Nuka-Cola would help develop chemical weapons. In exchange, they would get access to immortality technology. The military wanted weaponized isotopes that could coat power armor or be loaded into Fat Man launchers. Bradburton wanted to live forever. Project Cobalt began. The Beverageer division created a strontium-90 isotope derivative. It glowed bright blue. It could be weaponized, and it could be used somewhat safely in a new kind of Nuka-Cola. To create an isotope safe for human consumption, they used focus groups to test various variants. At least 62 test subjects died from organ failure. Many more were hospitalized with radiation burns. Families received Nuka condolences, fruit and cheese packages containing liability waivers. The company called this an acceptable loss. Just the cost of innovation. They kept testing, kept adjusting, kept watching people die until they found an isotope that killed fewer subjects. Then they fast-tracked it through the approval process and released it on October 23, 2077. The same day the bombs fell, Bradburton got his immortality. The military's researchers surgically removed his head and placed it in life support equipment in a hidden vault beneath his office at Nuka World. He could see, hear, speak, but he could not move, could not feel, could not die. For over 200 years he sat in that vault, alone, staring at the same wall. 76,000 consecutive days of consciousness with no escape. Some might say he got what he deserved, but I am not sure anyone deserves that. The chemical weapons research continued alongside the beverage development. Nuka-Cola created weaponized isotopes while marketing soft drinks to children. They sponsored the White Spring Resort. They had a national literacy program. They modified the Hollywood sign with a giant sponsored by Nuka-Cola banner, all while conducting classified weapons research and feeding radioactive drinks to test subjects. And people loved them for it, trusted them, believed the cheerful advertisements and the smiling Nuka Girl mascot, never suspected that every bottle helped fund military weapons programs and human experimentation. But the worst company I have encountered did not even pretend to have noble goals. Dunwich. Borers LLC was a marble quarry in the Commonwealth. They manufactured rock tunneling drills. On paper, they were a successful excavation company. In reality, they were a cult. The quarry had an abysmal safety record. Railings and supports were only replaced when they decayed to the point of failure. Requests for additional safety measures were dismissed outright. Workers fell to their deaths regularly. During a 2076 company picnic, a child wandered too close to the pit and fell in. The company's response was not to install railings. They bought an extra sentry bot to keep people away from the edge. They organized happy hours right next to the excavation pit. Any alcohol workers consumed was deducted from their paychecks. It was profitable, and profit excused everything, except profit was not the real goal. Management was searching for something beneath the quarry, an ancient temple to dark, forgotten gods. The marble was just a cover story. When they finally found an access route to the subterranean temple, station manager Tim Schutz was ordered to lure his colleagues down there and stall them. Management promised him a handsome reward. All 4 station managers were sacrificed in dark rituals, their bodies left to rot in the depths. They became feral ghouls, doomed to wander those underground chambers forever. The temple is still there, deep beneath the Commonwealth. If you dive into the irradiated pool at the bottom of the quarry, you will find an underwater altar, 2 mini nukes, and a unique sacrificial blade called Kremva's Tooth. Swim further and you will see part of a massive stone statue, just the eye staring up through centuries of rock and rubble. The stone breathes. I am not speaking metaphorically. The rumbling gets worse the deeper you go. It is not unstable supports. It is something ancient and terrible buried beneath our feet, something that Dunwich Borers was trying to awaken. What were they promised in exchange for those sacrifices? What did they think they would gain? I do not have those answers. Their records were destroyed in the war. But I know they killed their own employees to try to reach something older than civilization itself. I keep coming back to one question. Why? Why did they do it? These corporations had everything. Money, power, influence. They could have built a better world. Instead, they chose this. Deliberate cruelty wrapped in quarterly earnings reports. Systematic torture disguised as progress. I think I finally understand. It was never about the money. Not really. Money was just the score they kept. What they truly wanted was control. Complete, absolute control over human existence. The power to decide who lives, who dies, who suffers, and for how long. Every company I have told you about shared that same ambition. They wanted to remake humanity in their image, to create a world where they were indispensable, where survival itself required submission to their systems. Vault-Tec said it explicitly in their internal communications. They wanted to wipe the slate clean, eliminate friction and conflict by eliminating choice. Their experiments were not random cruelty. They were systematic research into breaking the human spirit, into finding the exact conditions that would make people accept any authority, obey any command, surrender any principle just to survive another day, and it worked. Look at us now. We scavenge their ruins, drink their contaminated sodas, fight their malfunctioning robots, live in their failed shelters. Everything we do, everything we are, still exists within the framework they created. They won, even after the world ended, even after every executive died. Their systems persist, their choices echo, their evil continues. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I have not finished the list. There are smaller companies, ones that did not have the reach of Vault-Tec or Poseidon, but were equally monstrous in their specific domains. Let me tell you about a few more before I reach my conclusion. RobCo Aerospace. They built rockets and aerospace technology. Robert House acquired them through aggressive stock buying between 2075 and 2076. The CEO tried to stop the hostile takeover but failed. House immediately repurposed their proprietary plasma rocket propulsion system for weapons research, military contracts, more efficient ways to deliver death. RobCo became another subsidiary in RobCo's empire, another company stripped of its original purpose and bent toward military applications. The people who worked there, who believed they were advancing space exploration, found themselves building weapons instead. Their dreams of reaching the stars turned into tools for accelerating the apocalypse. General Atomics International partnered with RobCo to create Liberty Prime, that giant robot you might have heard about, the most powerful combat robot in the history of warfare. Designed to liberate Anchorage and demoralize the Chinese into submission, it never saw combat before the bombs fell, but it represented everything wrong with the pre-war world. Massive resources poured into creating better ways to kill. Innovation directed entirely toward destruction. The Enclave itself was not a company, but they worked with all of them. Shadow government built from corporate interests and military leadership. They assumed Earth would be uninhabitable after nuclear war, so they planned to build a multi-generational starship and abandon the planet entirely. The Vault experiments were designed to gather data for that ship. How to keep people confined for generations. How to maintain social order in closed systems. How to breed compliance. They never built their ship. They remained on Earth instead. And when they emerged from their oil rig, they brought with them a plan to exterminate every mutated human in the wasteland. Ghouls. super mutants, anyone exposed to too much radiation, even ordinary survivors with minor mutations, all of them marked for death so the Enclave could inherit a pure world. This was their solution. Not rebuilding, not helping survivors. Genocide. Systematic elimination of everyone who did not meet their genetic standards. And they built this plan using data from Vault-Tec's torture experiments and technology from Poseidon, RobCo, and West-Tek. Every evil connected to every other evil. A web of corporate malice that spanned the entire nation. I found something else in my research, something that haunts me more than all the rest. There were people who knew, scientists, engineers, middle management, people who saw what their companies were doing and understood it was wrong. I have read their terminal entries, their private journals, their emails sent late at night when they could not sleep. Some tried to resist. The original overseer of Vault 81 sabotaged the experiments, refused to release diseases into the ventilation system, saved every resident by defying Vault-Tec's directives. One person making one choice. It mattered. At West-Tek, scientists recommended against human testing. Their warnings were ignored, but they tried. They spoke up. They went on record saying this was dangerous and unethical. At the Nuka-Cola bottling plant, one of the beveragiers, Ruth Levitt, tried to stop the quantum project. She saw what it was doing to test subjects, saw the military applications, understood they were building weapons disguised as refreshment. Rex Meacham killed her, sealed her in the lab when the bombs fell. He wrote in his terminal that he had no choice, that he could not let her compromise the entire operation. She died trying to do the right thing. He survived for a while in that sealed facility before radiation or starvation claimed him too. These stories are everywhere once you start looking. People who tried to stop the machine, who refused to participate, who leaked information or sabotaged projects or simply walked away. Most of them failed. Most were fired or silenced or disappeared into the corporate machinery. But they tried. That gives me a small measure of hope. Proof that even in the darkest system, individuals can still choose differently. That evil is not inevitable. It is selected, decided upon, implemented by people making conscious choices. Which brings me to my final point. We talk about these companies as though they were entities unto themselves, as though Vault-Tec or RobCo or West-Tek made decisions independent of human will. But companies do not make choices. People do. Executives, board members, scientists, engineers, accountants, security guards. Every person who participated, who stayed silent, who cashed their paycheck and looked the other way. They chose this. All of them chose profit over principle, chose comfort over courage, chose to believe that their small part in the horror did not make them complicit. The engineer who designed the faulty seal on Vault 12's door, the scientist who contaminated Huntersville's water supply, the accountant who hid Hallucigen's losses while test subjects died, the security guard who locked Renee Hargraves in her office while workers were gassed, the marketing team that sold Pulowski shelters to desperate families, the receptionist at Hallucigen who drugged job applicants, the station manager at Dunwich Borers who lured his colleagues to their deaths. Every single one of them had a name, a face, a life, and every single one chose to participate. Some probably told themselves they were just following orders. Some convinced themselves it was necessary for national security. Some believed they were advancing science or protecting American interests or ensuring their family's future. The rationalizations do not matter. The results remain the same. I am not saying this to judge them. I am saying it because we need to remember. The wasteland did not create itself. The bombs did not fall because of cosmic inevitability or historical forces beyond human control. Specific people made specific decisions that led to this exact outcome. And here is what terrifies me most. If it happened once, it can happen again. Right now, across the wasteland, new factions are forming. New leaders are rising. The Brotherhood of Steel hoards technology. The Institute conducts experiments on synths and wastelanders. The Enclave remnants still plot their genocidal restoration. Raiders organize into armies. Settlements build walls and weapons. Everyone wants to rebuild civilization. But which civilization? The old one that destroyed the world? Or something new? Something better? I see people following the old patterns, hoarding resources, drawing boundaries, deciding who deserves protection and who can be sacrificed for the greater good, creating hierarchies where some lives matter more than others. I see the beginning of new Vault-Tecs, new Poseidons, new RobCos. The technology changes, but the impulse remains the same. The desire for control, for power, for the ability to decide other people's fates without their consent. we have to do better. We have to choose differently, not just as individuals but as communities, as factions, as whatever passes for civilization in this burned world. Because if we do not learn from what these companies did, we are doomed to repeat it. Someone will decide that their vision of the future justifies present atrocities, that progress requires sacrifice, that some people are expendable in service of larger goals, and the cycle will begin again. I started this testimony by saying I needed to tell you something, that I found information in the ruins that would not let me sleep. Now you know what it was. Not just the specific crimes of specific companies, but the pattern, the system, the way that ordinary human choices, made by ordinary people, can accumulate into extraordinary evil. These companies built the world that killed itself. They profited from weapons that guaranteed mutual destruction. They ran experiments that treated human beings as laboratory animals. They sold false hope to desperate people and watched them die. They poisoned water supplies and created monsters and sacrificed employees to dark gods. And throughout all of it, they maintained the appearance of legitimacy, of progress, of civilization. That is what I cannot forget. That is what keeps me awake. Not the specific horrors, but the ease with which they were normalized. The way everyone involved convinced themselves it was acceptable, necessary, just business. I do not have solutions. I do not have answers. I only have this testimony. This accounting of what was done and who did it. A warning from the ashes of the old world to anyone trying to build something new. Do not trust corporations that promise salvation. Do not believe leaders who claim your suffering serves a higher purpose. Do not accept systems that require someone else's death for your survival. Do not normalize cruelty. Do not rationalize evil. Do not participate in horror just because everyone else is doing it. Choose differently. Choose better, or we will create this hell all over again. That is all I have. That is all I can offer. The truth about what happened. About who did it. About why it matters. The companies that destroyed the world are gone now. Their CEOs are dust. Their headquarters are ruins. Their quarterly reports are ash. But their legacy remains. In every poisoned river. Every irradiated shelter. Every super mutant that was once human. Every ghoul that remembers being something else. Every skeleton still trapped in a Pulowski booth. We live in the world they made. We cannot change that. But we can refuse to rebuild it in their image. We can reject their values. We can choose community over profit, compassion over control, truth over comfortable lies. That is my testimony. That is my warning. That is everything I found in those terminals and files and abandoned corporate headquarters scattered across the wasteland. Remember it. Share it. Let it inform every choice you make about what kind of world you want to build from these ashes. Because if we forget, if we allow this knowledge to disappear, then everyone who died in those vaults and quarries and testing chambers died for nothing. Their suffering becomes meaningless. And we guarantee it will happen again. I cannot let that happen. I will not let that happen. So I am leaving this recording, this testimony, this warning, for anyone who finds it, for anyone who needs to understand what we are recovering from, what we are trying not to repeat. The most evil companies in Fallout did not start as monsters. They started as businesses. They made choices. Small choices that accumulated, compromises that seemed reasonable at the time, lines crossed for good reasons that led to terrible destinations. Watch for those same patterns. Recognize them early. Resist them while you still can. That is how we honor the dead. That is how we build something better. That is how we finally truly survive.